Welcome to Pharos Technology. We're continuing to work on our Pharos database. And remember, in the last video, we worked on getting the Visio chart put together. Here's what the final product ended up looking like. So you can see the tables that are on the screen, and if we scroll down, I have my profile table extending down. And part of the reason for the layout the way it is that I have the video idea table. The ideas that we put together will have a particular profile that we want to target, the series or the playlist in YouTube that I want to target, and the writer that's going to be in the database. And when I put together the form, I'm going to take this information that already exists, have fields ready for it over into the video project, so that when I pull an ID down, I'm going to auto-populate with a little bit of VBA code behind there, the writer ID and the video series ID and the profile ID, and put them in this table. And frankly, now that I'm talking about it, you can see that I forgot to put the video series ID in video project. So I'll go ahead and slip that in. Remember that as you're working on a database, there's always going to be discoveries of things you forget, things that you just miss along the way. Don't feel bad about just adding it back into the table. So I'm going to go ahead and put in a keyed attribute here. Instead of a primary key, though, I'm going to make it a foreign key, and the attribute name is going to be video series ID. And then I'll go ahead and pull this and put it up with my other keys. In fact, I've got a video series. This entity name down here needs to be video series. And that's probably why I forgot. I created this and linked it to the one table, forgot to put it in here and link it to the other table. So now we're all linked up, we're ready to go. So I'm going to put this diagram in my other monitor so that I can then refer to it. So I'm going to start by hitting create, and I'm going to do table design because I like to work on a design palette. And what I'm going to end up doing then is I'm going to end up just starting here at the top of video project, and I'm going to be just working on putting all of these items into the database. And so what I want to do also, you want to make sure that you do this on all of them. Every table, in order to be in the first normal form, needs to have a primary key. That's why you see a project ID, you see a script ID, you see ID fields in all of my tables, so that I can then mark at the end of my creation that this one is to be a primary key. The others are going to be foreign keys, so they wouldn't be marked here at this table level. They'll point to primary keys in other tables. Now I'm done with that table, and when I save it, I want to save it table video project. And our first table is complete here. So I'm going to go ahead and close this one, and I'm going to continue to fast forward through creating the others. Now you'll notice, remember I said on the table script I was going to have a composite key. Now composite key means I'm making two fields the key, and so I'll make them both primary keys. And in doing this, then both of those have to be unique. So I can have script ID number 1 that's attached to project number 1, but I can also have script ID number 1 be also subscript ID number 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. And as long as I don't have a duplicate between those two fields in any two records, I then have a unique key which allows me to have multiple script pieces to a script that's attached to a single project. And so I'm doing this instead of the one-to-many relationship because it's just easier and more simplistic for reporting later, and for many other times when I just need to have multiple records that attach to a single key in another table. So I'll go ahead and save this one and move on to my profile table. All right, now you see that I've created all the tables. It was a really quick, easy job because I'd done all the thinking in Visio where I could see it on an open palette. If you saw it go flash by quick, you noticed I did make one small change. Instead of having script text and story text, Robert and I had talked about that requirement for that table, and really what he needed is a setting field to say whether we're going to be in a library or in at a farm or a bookstore or wherever we're going to be filming for that particular script segment, and then have just one script text field. And so we slimmed it down to one script text field and then a setting field. So I made that switch while I was typing. I'll go ahead and make this switch to make sure that my Visio chart stays up to date. But other than that, on the screen right now is the next video in the series. Hope you continue with us and watch that, and be sure to subscribe. Thank you much.